Hi guys, I hope you're well. So if you're looking for a really, really cool project to add to your portfolio, your coding portfolio, having an open source documentation um, website is a great idea. So think of it like the GitHub of legal documentation. So it's a way of pushing forward this notion of open source documentation. So where lawyers come together and they create or they develop contracts, so there's no need to restart contracts, legislation from scratch. So the whole point essentially is that, or the way that law firms are currently structured is that they will develop their legislation or contracts or whatever document, legal document it is, and they won't necessarily share it unless a client pays for it. And that's another issue, which is that billing is done per hour. So unless you're paying as a client per hour, they're not gonna pay. They're not gonna give you the contract. So say you wanted to offer $50 for the contract, they're not gonna give it to you. And I saw this when I had to draft a farming contract. So there's nothing special about these farming contracts. It's just essentially that if you want to supply inputs to farmers and then they have to sell you the produce, you will gather a group of farmers and you will sign the same contract. So for someone like me who had never drafted a farming contract, I needed to see what a farming contract would look like. What are issues they're thinking about, like the grade and type of soya beans or whatever it is. There are a lot of issues that I really didn't think about because I'm not specialized in farming, that I only saw once I saw these contracts that were drafted by other attorneys. So what we want to push for is a way to improve access to justice, improve efficiency, and to reduce costs. And although that seems to be contrary to the goals of law firms, which is to bill as much as they can, so basically spend as much time as they can on drafting per hour and charge to clients, what we wanted to do is to have an open source web application where you would draft your contract, making sure that it's valid, draft it, put it onto the website, and then other lawyers can come and just get some information from it. Basically, they may not have to change the contract, but they may want to grab a few ideas from your contract. So we haven't quite figured that out. So there's the issue of how we're going to ensure consistency, because what we don't want to do is have a situation where we create this like GitHub sort of situation, and then people come and then they start messing up valid contracts, just to be spiteful. We don't want a situation like that. And there's also an issue of consistency, which is that lawyers have this irritating habit where they will have different requirements, say different formats, or simple differences in valid documents for different states or different provinces and different countries. So we have an issue of consistency, which is that a valid contract in one state may not be a valid contract in another state. So that's another issue we have, which is that, okay, we've created this GitHub for lawyers. How are we going to ensure consistency where an inexperienced lawyer comes to the website and they take a contract which they think is valid, but it's missing important points? So there's that issue, and then there's the billing issue, which is that obviously lawyers aren't going to support this, but it's just a good thing to try out. And so I'm working on this. It would be nice to collaborate with some people, and in case you want to also do it, and I would also want to join on if you wanted to do this. So about the location thing, we had thought that if we separate documents according to location, that could improve that issue, which is that when you want to look at a contract, an NDA, or whatever it is, you go to your location and you look at a version of that contract according to your location. So, like, I'll take an example, like wills, the drafting of wills. Where I studied in a different country to the one I was born in. So in that country, they don't believe in like dying wishes of a person. So someone dies, and on their deathbed, they make a change to their will. That is not valid. Whereas in my home country, it is valid. A deathbed wish is valid. So it just depends on the location and province and things like that. I would encourage you to read an introduction, Lawyer of Tomorrow, An Introduction to Your Future by Richard Saskid. It's an amazing book. It does talk sort of about how there's going to be a change in the way lawyers bill, which is that we're going to move to a situation where lawyers will bill per produce and not per hour. So that means they're paid according to the contract they draft and not necessarily how long it took them to draft. Reason being, it doesn't take them that long to draft. Realistically, it doesn't, unless it's a complex transaction and new clients, new area of law for them. Then it does take some time. But realistically, if we collaborate, we can be more cost efficient and we can serve more people. So thanks, guys.